together, because I know there is always a deeper story that runs through with these 21 Pilots albums. So is there a reason for the dragon and how that fits in on the album cover and the aesthetic of this one?
Yeah, so I mean, if you notice some of our previous releases, there's always a bigger story to everything that's being created. And this record particularly is more colorful than other records, literally more colorful, and hopefully sonically as well. But that color is supposed to represent the unleashing of an imagination. You know, I have this theory that even if you're confined to one small room, if you were to focus on one singular detail of that room, that detail can then come to life. Actually, I have this little dragon like totem figurine that I've been staring at, and my theory is that, like, if I can get to a place where I'm looking at him and I'm creating something, and all of a sudden he can grow and then actually fly around the room, and then where I am, I transported to a completely different place. It really is the power of creativity, the power of imagination, and ultimately the power of music.
I guess then, in terms of the lyricism of the album too, you know, you're quite positive on Shy Away, and you've always been quite insular, very open about your feelings. Is that a continuation into this album at all?
You know, as you move about your life, you would imagine that you start to answer more and more questions. Inevitably, there's going to be a time where I have no more to say. And I've always wondered when that's going to be. And all of a sudden, I begin to be inspired by something else.
Could you tell us about Trash, Tyler?
He's powerful. He really represents the creativity and the imagination that I was trying to capture during the making of the record. And like I've talked about, how when you're confined to one space, even the tiniest detail, if you focus on it long enough, can come to life. Or like if you can imagine that a tiny toy dragon coming to life and flying around the room, why couldn't that kick drum then all of a sudden turn into that beautiful song? When you're confined to one space, you can either feel, you know, woe is me about it and write a song that feels confined, or you can do the opposite and accentuate the idea of freedom and color and discovery, even if the place in which your body is writing the song isn't experiencing any of those things.
I gotta ask, on that album art, on the bottom, there was a little disclaimer in very, very hard to read lettering. It said, the views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the Sacred Municipality of Dema and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the artist. Now, taking that into consideration, was this project made under duress, or was there a third element or an outside force in the creation of this album?
All I can say is I'm really excited about the record.
Fair enough.
You're gonna push me.
Fair enough. I had to ask. I had to ask. And then last but not least, I know the last time I think we saw Ned in person was on Fallon. I'm assuming he's going to be a part of this next era as well.
He's kind of he's on a hiatus where he's turned his phone off. We can't find him, and he turned his location services off too. Like, usually that's how we would keep in touch with him, but he's so we're, as soon as honestly, if you're out there, Ned, like, just come on home.
Is there a wrapping up type plan going on with you now?
I'll say this: any show that, you know, has a finale that people are, you know, less than satisfied, I've always argued with them. Like, yeah, no, it was perfect. Is exactly what it needed. Like, there's something to be said, and I understand there's certain. I think that maybe not all shows, but if it's coming from the same place, you can't, like, it's perfect. If it's coming from, if the whole time, the whole story, the whole journey has come from the same source, the way that source decides to end that journey is perfect. Now, when you start bringing other people and other sources into the creative process, into the storytelling process, that's when you can get critical. Like, if they hadn't brought that person on, if they hadn't, you know, changed this about the lineup, or changed this about the creative mind behind it, it's all coming from us. And so that's one of the things that I feel confident about is whatever we decide to do, however we decide to tell the story, at least our fans will know it's coming from us, and it has come from us this whole time. And at least that's something to stand on. And I think maybe I'm just kind of like pumping myself up that like we're about to figure out how this ends and in what way it ends, and it's a daunting task. But I want to remind ourselves of that at least the fan that understands that no one has come in and been a new source of inspiration, a different voice in the creative process and the storytelling. It's been the same. It's been from the same two minds this whole time. And I think our real fans will notice that and recognize that and appreciate that for being pretty rare. And
Yeah,
that's my speech. I wanted to escape it a bit and really lean into imagination and the idea that if you're confined to one simple small space and you focus on one tiny little detail in that space, that detail can actually come to life and fly around your room and take you on a journey. And I think that's the power of music and creativity and leaning into that imagination. I think that this record is going to be a little more colorful and exciting in that way.
Just the whole thing?
Yeah.
What sparked the idea of Dima?
Yeah, like what were you thinking? Just like, oh, I want to do this.
Wow. Gosh. Well, it's an old story. It's been around for a while for me, and it's one that I continually live and have lived. I guess the whole idea is leaving someplace you feel like you shouldn't be anymore, whether that's literally or sometimes that's a story in your own psyche. You should leave that place, or there's a place inside your own brain that you shouldn't be anymore. And just that decision to travel somewhere else, somewhere better, but you don't know exactly where that place is and what it's called, and maybe even which direction it's in. But just knowing that you made that decision is better. So the story of Dima kind of really embodies that decision. So I guess that's what inspired it. A lot of that. No, I do remember your question. A lot of the visuals coming together. We spent a lot of time with specifically the live show, whether it's the content on the screens or what the lights are doing, and all the way down to what colors represent what, and having those colors kind of battle each other, and one of them wins. And there's actually a lot of storyline inside of our production of our live show that maybe a lot of people don't catch on to, which is fine because we know that it's there for us. I think that part of being at a show, specifically being in a pit on the floor, most of the time you're just focused on not dying, and so if you miss a few things, like, that's expected. But the whole idea is if someone were to come see this show again, would they see other things that they didn't catch the first time? So you really need to make sure that you pour in as much meaning and storyline and narrative into a live show as you can. And so not only that, but tonight specifically, the room is very big. So we've been playing arenas on this tour, but this one specifically is very wide, very large. Everyone's going to kind of have a different show. Everyone's going to see it from a different angle. And making sure that everyone, accepting the fact that it's going to be different from each angle, it still should be good. And so, I know I didn't go into the details of your question, but it is very important to us, the live show, and how it ties in with the narrative. And hopefully when you guys see it tonight, you can catch something that you didn't, maybe if you've seen it before or something. He's a pretty bean, that Ned.
He's just a friendly guy that I think we've always really worked hard to impress. We just try to impress him.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing.
Is he your imagination?
He's both of our friends, and I think he wants to play guitar so bad, but he just can't get his arm around it.
You're looking for somebody who can play guitar.
Well,
No,
he wants to play guitar.
He wants to. We keep telling him, dude, it's not important for you to play an instrument to be our friend.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad. We walk into the, the green room or whatever, and he's trying to get his arms around that thing,
Yeah.
and he just can't reach. You know, like he can't get it over. Because if he bends the guitar this way to get to the strumming, by the time he gets it
Yeah.
around here to get the
Then
chords,
he can't touch this one anymore. And then, I've told him too, I'm like, you're spending so much time trying to get your arm around this thing, and you haven't even, and once you do, then you got to figure out how to play a chord.
Yeah.
And you got to get your fingers, the calluses, otherwise you're going to get blisters, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell him all this, and, Tyler's warning him against it. And also Tyler's like, even if you learn a chord, you still can't play in our band.
Yeah.
So, but,
If Ned is your friend, he will be present tonight on your show, I think, yeah? Yeah? He will be here?
Yeah, well, he's gone to a lot of shows, actually, and he just doesn't really show himself too much. He stays behind the scenes most of the time, and also he's really expensive, so he's kind of stubborn. He feels like he's a little more important than he probably is. I mean, he doesn't even play an instrument.
We're talking about Ned about 3 minutes, I think. Okay, that's enough for him.
How did you develop the character Ned?
In my head. No, we're not doing anything illegal, but there's a song on the record called Bandito, and we're playing it tonight. And that word kind of represents our fan base, and so we felt like it made sense for the tour. Breaking Bad did not come to mind while we were working on the video, but I see the comparison. And did you watch Breaking Bad?
yeah, I did.
Yeah, we're both. I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad, so that's a good comparison in our eyes. So that's cool.
You're probably referring to Walter White's pool in his backyard. But
It was Will Smith's pool. He's just Ned. He's our friend.
he's been a friend for a while, and he's always trying to. He always has wanted to make a cameo in our band in some way, and he wants to play on stage ultimately. But finally, we said, you know what, you can be in a music video, but don't expect to be on stage with us anytime soon.
He just can't get his arms around the guitar. The guitar's too big,
Yeah.
and so he can't play an instrument. He's really upset about it.
How long have you been developing the idea of Dima?
Next. Yeah, no, the story has been around longer than, Trench itself, but it's hard to say exactly when, because a lot of these things started to come to life for me at different times, and it's a story that I feel like has been around a while in my life, but being able to then name it, Dima. I remember where I was when I first came up with that word, and I was actually in the ocean. And I live in Ohio, so I'm not in the ocean very often. But there was something, I don't know what happened. But that word came to me, and it just made sense with what it is that I was opposing at the time and working through. And this whole idea of treating your own psyche as this map that you can travel in. And you learn where you're trying to go, but you also, more importantly, learn where you're trying to leave, some areas that you shouldn't go anymore. And I think that, when we watch movies and we live in these, other worlds, we forget that what we're going through, our own story right now, is just as dramatic and exciting and challenging as any other Hollywood fantasy movie that we all get excited about, or at least I get excited about. And to be inspired by my own story and kind of giving names to the opposition and I don't know, it helped me work through something I was working through. So I guess I can't really specifically answer your question of how long it's been, but it feels like it's always been in a kind of weird way. So I'm just excited that people have kind of wanted to dive into it with me, and it's become so much more important now that we've been able to express it and show you guys that story.